Hello, welcome to the Impact Network podcast. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Pritchett, and I'm joined today by Lara Novack, our 2025 Supermom. Welcome, Lara. I'm just going to intro you real quick. Lara wears many hats. She's a single mom of two incredible daughters. She's an education leader, a life coach, and the founder of My BFF Coaching, where she helps people heal from emotional trauma and build healthier relationships. Welcome.
It's so good to see you.
We met a year ago on the Supermom Champion Experience set, and what a fun experience that was. But before we get into all of that, I want to ask you about you. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we can go on from there.
Awesome. I live near Washington, D.C., and I work for one of the largest school systems in the country. I work with a focus in special education, and I support 9 schools. So every day is a busy day. I also am so blessed to have 2 amazing, beautiful, growing into young women. As I talked about in my article, I know I'm not raising children, but adults. My oldest just turned 17. And my youngest is 13 and has been away for almost a full month. So I'm going to pick her up on Sunday from camp.
Yay. Okay, wait, where did she go to camp?
She goes to camp in Massachusetts. They both did, but my oldest is too old now, which is a little
Ah,
sad because they grow up so fast.
they do. Is the camp is so funny. I just last night, I have a 10-year-old, Sophie, and she and I watched Parent Trap last night,
Mm-hmm.
where they go to camp.
Yeah, great
Is it like a
movie.
similar camp like that?
Yeah, a sleepaway camp, and it's all encompassing. They have every activity under the sun and take some trips, but I find it's really great for the kids to develop some independence and also some good habits, right? About like making your bed and not because mommy told you to. Um, it's an awesome experience for them.
I'm sure you're so excited to see her, though.
Yes, it's been a long time. There's no technology, so we can only write letters to one another.
Oh, that is I love that.
Yeah,
That is
it's
so
fantastic.
special. And then you can keep those letters forever.
Yes, I have many from
Yeah.
over
Oh,
the
wow.
years.
That is special. My daughter goes to camp, weekly camps just in town.
Hmm.
And it's hard because working, full time and then trying to pick her up, take her at 9 in the morning, pick her up at 3, which is like not a normal work day. So we're fortunate that we have work-life balance. At least I do. So
Yeah, you're super lucky. I
yeah,
think
I
the
can imagine that.
pandemic taught parents, right, a lot about how much the education system is a necessity in their worlds.
Yes, exactly. So, tell me a little bit about your business, your life coach.
Yeah, so I've been on a journey, an intentional journey for the last 10 years, on my own recovering from some emotional traumas from childhood and adulthood. And I worked as a coach for many years, and it's what I love to do more than any other piece. I love to allow people to create their own insights. And so I had wished that there was somebody to coach me along the way. I certainly have had mental health support and people I respect who gave me wisdom, but there wasn't this like chronological map. I sort of had to figure it out as I went. And so because I know what really worked for me, I know where I plateaued. I've tried to take all of those techniques and skills that I've learned and support people in their own journeys in recovery from emotional trauma. And so I work on several platforms, but then I also have my own business. So I do some peer support groups, I lead some seminars, and then I also do one-on-one coaching.
That's great to have that resource. Like you said, you didn't have it, so you're taking time out of your life to help others who really need it. And is that kind of like so you have your full time in the education system, and then you have that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So like today's going to be a really long day. Thankfully it's the summer and school is just summer school, not my regular hustle and bustle. But then tonight I have a client at 9:30 11:30, and then I have a peer support group at 10:30. So my day will go until 11:30 tonight.
Whoa. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
It's certainly
Uh,
my honor, my pleasure, for
oh,
sure.
thank you. Let's talk about motherhood and let's get into it and, kind of talk about how the things you've seen as your daughters have grown up. Two daughters, very different personalities, right?
They do.
So, what are they like? And then how do you navigate those two personalities?
Yeah, so it's interesting because my oldest, Eliana, she is incredibly sensitive and inclusive and good at reading the room, but she also has this way of using humor and letting things roll off her back a lot. Um, and my youngest, Gabrielle, she's very spunky and outgoing, and yet incredibly sensitive. And so it's super interesting that what they lead with sort of their isn't sort of their Achilles heel a little bit, right? One leads with sensitivity, one leads with spunkiness, and they sort of have the opposite as like what pinches them.
Yeah.
Um, and they do have a lot in common. They're both competitive dancers, and we spend a lot of time in the dance world. Uh, but they complement each other and they love each other as much as they fight like siblings do. You stole this, you borrowed that because they're around the same size. They have an incredible bond.
That's so special. And you're a single mom, correct?
I am for 10 years.
So that bond that you three have is such a special bond. I too am a single mom and with one daughter. And I have a dog, Leo. He's a miniature schnauzer, so he's definitely a sibling. In fact, he just this morning woke Sophie up with, kisses and walking all over her head. And so it's like
Yes.
basically her sibling. They play a lot.
Yeah, we also have a little teeny tiny. She's half beaver, half Yorkie terrier, and her name is Aura, and we call her everything but. But she's 6 pounds and comes with us everywhere. And my kids absolutely adore her. She is the light of our lives, and she just turned 2 in June.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. Yorkies are so cute. Wait, what was the other half?
It's she's Beaver Terrier, Biewer. It's like a
Oh,
German cousin, and she's tri-colored, and it's from there that she gets her tricolor mix.
oh, love that. So having those two different personalities, how what are the difficulties in, trying to keep the peace? And also, you have to kind of form a your motherhood in different ways to each of the personalities, right? For me, my daughter is sensitive, spunky at home, very shy out in public, super. I think she's like an empath. In fact, like
Mhm.
even inanimate objects have feelings.
Yeah.
So I don't want to burst her bubble, but I also want to be sensitive to how she feels, right? So how do you navigate those kind of the differences?
So I try to teach them the same value systems. Um, and so something that I've always taught them is there's there's no bad emotion, right? And you can have every emotion. You just can't have your emotions on people. You can have them near people, but not on people. And that there's no alarm clock, there's no magic pill or no magic wand for when one emotion ends and one begins. You just choose, right? So if you're feeling angry, you can feel angry, but no one's going to tell you when it's over. You can feel angry for 5 minutes or 5 weeks. But ultimately, the choice of switching from anger to happy or anger to sad is up to you. The way in which that gets communicated to them is different. Um, Eliana tends to need a little bit of her own space first, and then she'll sort of pursue me when she's ready. Whereas Gabrielle is her love language is physical touch, and so she would much rather me be there, even if she doesn't want to communicate about it. She just wants me there. So I think just knowing how they each feel seen, feel love. And I think that's really important. I was recently talking to somebody about the difference when somebody says to you, I love you, but they don't see you, versus when somebody says, I love you, and they know who you are. They say it, it's like a little I, big you, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful way to think about that. The other point you just made, the love languages. Very important for mothers to figure out what their child's love languages are. So that was such a great point right there. And, if you don't know what the love languages are, definitely look it up. There's 5 acts of service, gifts, words of
Yep.
affirmation,
Quality time,
quality time, and
physical touch.
physical touch. Yes. And so she
Yeah.
mentioned that. Yeah. So that alone can help you really, help your child and make them feel safe.
Yeah. We tend to love, right, from the way in which we want to receive love. And so it's like a really big deal if Eliana is initiating physical touch with Gabrielle with a hug, or like doing her hair because she's in school for cosmetology. Um, and Gabrielle, I mean, she just blossoms with that. And Eliana's love language is words of affirmation. So I think it's really important that, she gets told when she's doing a great job being a big sister, being inclusive to her friends, noticing what needs to be done. Because my love language is acts of service. So if
I
I
was
come
going
home
to
and
ask
the
what
kitchen is
yours
clean,
was.
I am a happy person if the dishes made it into the dishwasher.
That's cute. Did they know that?
Oh yes, if they want
Okay.
something, yes, for sure. Things get tidied around the house.
That's so funny. I love that. That's smart of them too. They know how to like push your buttons. They're like, okay, we need this. Let's go. You clean the bathroom. I'll clean the living room.
Right.
Got
Yeah. Listen, it's great. I've also taught them, like, growing up, where kids say things like, I want, or if you're calling them for dinner and they're like, but I haven't finished this game. I've tried to teach them the tools about how adults can hear them. And so they have this phrase, is it possible? And a wise person in my life taught me to teach them that, right? So if they don't want to leave their game, but it's dinner time, instead of saying, but I'm still playing, they'll say, is it possible I can have 5 more minutes? And it just lands so differently.
Oh my gosh. And we could use that too, right? To soften our approach with our kids.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like you could ask if they're you know, on their iPad and just turn it around and be like, well, is it possible that you could be off that in 5 minutes? And then they'll be like, oh, yes, mommy.
Yeah, yeah. Usually I give a choice, like, do you need 3 more minutes or 5 more minutes?
Yeah. And I'll also do, how many more minutes do you think you need?
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
usually pretty low, because if you're giving them the option.
yeah. I think that autonomy to make decisions, and then if they're outrageous, right, with what they come back with, then you teach them negotiation.
Yeah. Yes. It's a good skill to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever have you ever heard of the yes day?
Yes, I have.
Have you done one?
Um, so probably not in full, but um, I also have a commitment to saying yes unless I need to say no. And I think in many ways I was raised in the reverse, that most things were no. Uh, I think that was just the style in the 80s, right? Like it's a big
Hmm.
thing now, raised on neglect and hose water.
Yeah.
If you grew up in the 80s, I mean, I tell my kids all the time, there was a commercial at 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are every
Can
night?
you believe it? Oh my gosh. That was
And
us.
so, right. Yeah, tough. So I do try to make them see things as possible. And that's why I say yes, is I want them to see things as possible, but understand limitation.
I'm gonna start doing that more. I've never thought of it that way, so I appreciate that. I do say yes a lot though, when I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Uh,
They also know when I say no, there is a reason, right? I don't have to say because I said so. I don't have to use any of those sort of traditional lines.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to be I don't ever want to say because I said so. Yeah, those traditional lines are traditional for a reason. They're
Right.
that's not how we open up a lot more to our kids these days, and we're more empathetic, I feel like. And in general, not everyone, but
Yeah. I also don't want to say because I'm the mom, right? Like, I feel like one of the things that I try to raise my children with is that from the moment they were born, they were 100% a whole person with all of the emotions that they have. And I want to honor who they are with that and that we are both humans, right? I might be older and have more life experience. I might have a different lens of their interest and be able to see around corners they can't see because just naturally, right? Your brain is not fully developed until you're in your mid 20s. Um, but again, I'm growing them towards that, respecting that they are a full human with full emotions, no matter how tall they are. And they're both taller than me now.
are they really?
Yeah.
That's cute. On that note, let's talk about you mentioned we have kind of I've heard this a couple times in your article in just talking to you in general, but you're raising adults, not children. So I think you just touched on that a little bit. Do you have more to share about that philosophy?
Um, I think it's really important that we're always looking to raise our children into the next level of success in life, right? So the same wise woman who told me about the Is It Possible, she taught me that there are three stages of being a parent. One is director, one is manager, and one is consultant, and they come at different points in life. And so when you're the director, it's like, go here, brush your teeth, do this, eat that, make your bed, put your clothes away, right? And then they grow into teenage, you become more like a manager where it's a little bit less hands-on. And you give them a little bit more of the autonomy. And then ultimately, at some point, when they're raised, you become the consultant, answer when asked. And that's what I really hope for them, right? Like, I hope that I've created a relationship where they're going to want to ask me.
Yes, that is the goal. I not having a teenager yet, worry about her coming to me when she needs me or somebody, anybody. I never did the time out thing because I never wanted her to be alone in her emotions. And
Right.
anytime that, she acted acted up, or I would just sit with her and make sure that she knew somebody was there for her instead of putting her in a room being like, you go to your room, deal with this alone, right? So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that kind of opened the door for open communication forever.
Yeah. I tell them I never want them to think, no matter what happens, I never want them to think my mom's going to kill me. I
Yeah.
always want them to think I need to call my mom.
Yes, that is so true. So what have your daughters taught you about yourself?
Wow. Everything. I had a very unconventional childhood. I lost my own mom when I was 5. And she was sick from the time I was 2.5. And my dad did go on, and we had two other families. He's actually been married to my stepmom now since the late 80s. So they've been together a really long time. But I was already 11 by the time they got married, and you're pretty formed at that point in time, right? And I had had some pretty big losses, and my parents, for sure, did their best when they married. There were four of us. They had both lost a previous spouse. And so I did a lot of growing up on my own from a very young age. And so when I had Eliana, um, in raising her, I started raising me and sort of reparenting the way I wanted to parent her, some things that were missing maybe from my childhood in terms of feeling like I was seen, and I wasn't neglected or anything like that. It's just that life was chaotic, to say the least, from a very young age in my world.
Yeah.
And so I've had to look at myself over and over and over. I remember very specifically after I got divorced and I was a single mom, and we lived pretty far from their dad at that point in time. It was very stressful. And I had gotten a promotion and I was going to hire a nanny, a morning and an afternoon nanny. And I asked them, what's your rule? And they said, somebody who doesn't raise their voice. And Anne-Marie, that was not about who I was hiring, right? Like I
Yeah.
had to really pause that what didn't work for them was being yelled at. I'm not a big yeller, but like raising my voice didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of work on myself
Mhm.
to stop raising my voice and recognize that they don't make me feel frustrated. I feel frustrated. And it's a choice. I can choose. And even if I am choosing, I feel frustrated, I can choose to have my emotion on my own, right? Like in my room, I can choose I'm frustrated and I need space versus I'm frustrated and you're going to hear it in my voice.
Yes, I am on that same page. I do my best to not raise my voice and like just walk away. Sometimes I'll just be like, you know what? I just need a minute. Walk
Yeah.
away, just like in the other room,
Yeah,
right?
for
But
sure.
but the other day, same, I got frustrated and I started to raise my voice and I was like, I can't. And I was so sad and mad at myself for the rest of the day. And I talked to some friends and they're like, do not be so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace,
Yes.
because you did good. You stopped, you stopped yourself, even though you started a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So that is something that is, you have to work on it, right? You can't just all of a sudden, um, be a certain way when
Yeah.
you have been your whole life.
Yeah, and it's not like I've invented these things, right? Like I have gurus in my world. John Gottman, who's like the relationship guru, he says the repair is so much more important than the tear. We're human. We're all going to error, right? And it's how we manage that, how we go back and show our kids, like, you know what? I was stressed out and the way I handled it was not okay. And it's not about you, it's about me, and I'm so sorry. And I love you, and my raising my voice doesn't diminish my love for you in any way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
I think, when you model that, you show them that an apology is not weakness, it's actually strength. And that just because I'm older doesn't mean I'm also not going to error. And it also gives them that avenue to come back to me and say, you know what, I really wasn't listening. I really could have done this more quickly or done what you've asked or what have you. And it teaches that healthy relationship piece.
It does. Yeah, that's a good thing to, remind people is that are in that place where they don't understand that, like just like you said, the tear, the fixing, what'd you say? the
The repair is so much more important than the tear.
Yes, exactly. That's that, and it rhymes too, so it's memorable. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that. They just focus on the tear and don't understand that you can repair it and be better off for it.
Yeah. And I learned a lot of implementation. I was a coach in the instructional world, not like a sports coach, but like a coach for teachers. And, things would happen and there would be some feelings of angst. And I would just come back in Monday morning and be like, hey, how was your kid's soccer game? Right? Like, I just wanted to touch base, make sure we're okay. And relationships are the crux of everything we do. And if you don't know how to navigate them, how to repair them, how to continue on after there's been some kind of a disconnection, I would encourage you to look at that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really important.
Yeah. Well, you said okay, so where you said you're in DC now. I'm just curious what your childhood growing up was like and location wise. Because I feel like you're one of those people who can, you obviously are because you're a coach and an education leader, where you can kind of navigate, not where you can form not change your personality, but you can relate to people in very different ways according to their personalities.
Yes.
And that's going to be so necessary in your line of work. But I feel like people that are like you in that have lived in different areas and had to like change schools and things like that. So I'm curious
Oh,
if
you're
you had
super
that.
perceptive. So perceptive. Yeah. So I grew up in New Jersey. Um, and by the time I was in sixth grade, I had been in six schools. So I went kinder in one and actually was living with my dad's twin during that year part-time. We went to school in her district because my mom had just passed. And then first and second in one school, and then third and fourth in a very different kind of private school, and then fifth in a different, and then started sixth in one place, and then we moved and I ended sixth in that sixth school. And then my parents, who have been married since the late 80s, right? Then I was in the same district for 6 years. But
And then
yes,
you moved somewhere else after that.
yeah, so I went to college and I was super fortunate to get a great education degree. I'm double certified in gen ed and special ed. And after college, one of my friends from the very last district that I went to, she had been hired by the DOJ and the Department of Justice and was like, I can't afford to live in the DC metro area. And I was like, listen, I'm a teacher. Let's go.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
cool.
we moved here. I actually live in Northern Virginia, and I've lived kind of all over this DC metro area in Virginia and Maryland.
Did we
And
talk about that I lived in Fairfax?
that's where I live.
Oh, hold on. Travis, I have to pause real quick. My light went out. I need to put it back on. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, you live in Fairfax?
Wait, yeah, for real? You lived in Fairfax?
I did. I went to Robinson High School for eighth and ninth grade. No,
Yeah.
no, no. I was in the military. My dad was in the Air Force, so he was working at the Pentagon, and we lived in Fairfax, sixth and seventh grade. Yeah, sixth and seventh grade.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you're probably,
lived right off Ox Road.
yeah. No, I live 4 or 5 miles from Oxford.
Really? Oh, I love Fairfax. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I drove through
I live
there
on
a
the
couple years
eastern
ago.
side of Fairfax, closer to Annandale.
And you work in the school district. Do you work at any certain schools in
I
particular?
have, so like, I'm assuming you went to an elementary school for sixth grade for Robinson and then switched into the secondary because it's a 7 through 12.
Yeah, the sixth grade was Robinson, but it was like a Robinson sixth. It was like sixth grade at Robinson. It was like sixth through, I thought it was sixth through 12th at Robinson.
So it might be. Now it's 7 through 12. It might have
Yeah.
been then.
Yeah, I think it
We
was
have
sixth
very
and
few
seventh.
secondaries. And so Robinson has a whole pyramid, right? It doesn't have middle schools that feed into it because it has its middle school,
Yeah.
but it has probably 5 or 6 elementaries. And so I have that same thing in the Annandale pyramid. I have Annandale High, it's 2 middle schools, and it's 6 elementaries. So I have 9 schools. And then because I'm special ed, there's early childhood. And then we keep students who require education past 18 through 22. And so it's like before they get into adult ed. But in special ed, it's a diploma or 22 inclusive.
Okay. Wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, wow, we were like, we have symbiosis in there.
Yeah, exactly. Our souls are is always there. I feel like anywhere you move from, you leave a little bit of you in that space.
Yeah. So you asked me about like being able to adjust to other people, right?
Yes.
And I think the key, while I feel like I've done so much talking in the time we've been together, it's unnatural for me, right? The key to being able to relate and pick up other people's way of existing is by being a good listener. And I can talk to anyone about anything because I've learned how to be a good listener.
I agree. It's that listen without your answer running in your head. And it's
Yes.
like a lot of people listen, but they're thinking about other things. So they're not really listening.
Yeah.
And the only way to really, really communicate with somebody on that same level is to listen, right?
Yeah.
It seems so simple, but it's very hard for people to slow down their brain and stop for a second and like really process what the other person is saying.
Yes. When people say things like, oh, I'm bad with names, actually, you're not. You're just not quiet in your brain to be internalizing that person's name, to be linking it to something. Um, and so, yes, and I agree with you. People are thinking about their answer. Sometimes you're actually thinking about like the curiosity, like what question, oh, that, or what connection do I have with that? And when you're a coach, they train you how to quiet that inner dialogue so you can really listen. I think, when people are upset or angry, there's typically a request behind the complaint. So it depends how you listen to people.
Do you have any tools, wrote like quick tools to do that to kind of quiet your brain?
Um, I think it's an ongoing practice for sure in terms of being grounded and oriented in your space, in your life. Um, but also, I think it's about recognizing that everybody is an entire universe and deserves to be heard in that way. And
Yeah.
so when I pause and I'm like, okay, it's your time, talk to me, what's going on? It is my obligation to quiet my head. And if something pops up, like, oh, I can connect to that, I have to push it aside and get grounded again and be listening to you as that entire universe.
Yes, I have a hard time with that because I want to hop in and be like, "Oh yeah, I relate to that." So I work on that too, is where okay, just ground. You can talk about that in just like 10 seconds. you know.
Yeah, I think it's different. Listen, if you're at a cocktail party, that there is that back and forth. When you're a coach, that hour is 90% about what they have to say.
That's very true. I wanted to ask you, rose thorn petal. What does that mean? Tell me about that tradition.
Yeah, so I have always, as I've talked about the values that I've taught my kids, I've really tried to be very intentional about being present. It's hard, the hustle and bustle of life with extracurriculars and social worlds and all of that. So Friday night is family dinner. They're welcome to bring people over, but Friday night is family dinner. Even if there's a football game, even if there's a basketball game, Friday night is family dinner. And so we have two traditions. One is that we have these angel cards that have characteristics on them, and I used them very early on to teach my kids about what does it mean to be balanced? What does it mean to have flexibility, not just of your body, but of your mind, right? So we pull these cards and we talk about inviting that characteristic into our life when we face adversity and the upcoming week, because it's developing ourselves. And then rose petal thorn, one of my kids brought home from school from one of their teachers that they just adore. And it is from the week that we've just ended. What was the highlight of your week? What was the painful part of your week? And then petal is what are you looking forward to next week? And it just allows us to ground within one another and be present to each other's experience.
That's great. Very good advice for families. And like, I like that you're not having to sit down every single night and have family dinner because we are so busy. And I feel like some of those old traditions don't really fit in today's lifestyle, right? And I do love that. And I'll do that sometimes with mine where I'll, what's the best thing that happened to you today? What's something that didn't feel good today? And then what's something that made you laugh? If I get the chance to, and when I have to
Yeah,
do it, obviously.
I love that. Not just what made you laugh, who made you laugh is a
Yeah,
great
who
one
made you?
too.
Yeah, exactly. And then they can kind of relate that person to happiness, and because usually if somebody made them laugh, that's that's somebody who makes them laugh a lot. you know?
Yeah. And lets you into their world a little bit better than how was your day?
Exactly. How was your day is not, doesn't work anymore.
Or what
Good,
happened at school? Nothing.
good. I hear, I hear that being asked of Sophie a lot, like, how was your day? And her answer is good.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we need to get more specific. And
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
I've noticed with her, she needs time when she gets out of school. When I pick her up, she needs a few minutes to decompress in the car before I start going in with the questions. It's
It's a long day, and kids
a
work
long day.
really hard at school. They do, even if we think it's different than historically, right? Like we're not teaching cursive and arithmetic looks different. Um, I think the social implications of school and navigating this very intense world, it's a much faster paced world in terms of the access to people, the communication that happens. And that's a lot of work for kids.
It is a lot of work. Yeah. So I just let her, I give her a little treat when we get in the car and just let her decompress for a few and
Yeah.
then ask her if there's anything she wants to share, or, however that happens. So, real quick, okay, before we get back into like the supermom, the year after supermom, let me just ask you really quick about your reinvention. You said that you had trauma you had to overcome and you starting over in your 40s, you got divorced. Um, Tell me a little bit about the reinvention, trusting yourself, finding purpose, and then we can hop into the supermom combo.
Awesome. Um, so I always felt like I had purpose, right? Like I decided at 9 that I was going to become a teacher because the adults around me couldn't read behavior. They didn't understand that behavior was communication. And I remember a very specific moment growing up where when I was 9 in 4th grade, and I thought to myself, gosh, if this is the smartest adults are, I need to become a smarter adult for children like me. And I've never sort of wandered from that path. And so I've always felt like I've had purpose. My purpose has changed over time to broaden, right, and encompass my kids and those kinds of things, but also it's broadened to encompass me. And you talked a little bit ago about giving yourself grace. I think that's so important. One of the things that changed my game, changed my world, is that I had started on this journey of sort of claiming an identity because I had always been more of like a chameleon, be seen but not heard. And so I was claiming an identity, claiming self-worth, and um, same woman over and over, same wise woman who said to me, what you put in is what you get out. And Lara, what you put in to yourself in your own inner dialogue is so harsh that if you heard someone speaking to a perfect stranger on the street the way you speak to yourself, you would intervene because that's who you are. And yet you're not doing it for you. And I was like, okay, great. That's fantastic. Thank you for the insightful observation. But like, it's my own inner dialogue. What do I do? And so she told me, I really think you need to do affirmations. And I am like a very data driven person. I like my spreadsheets. I like to analyze things and break them down and figure out how to change the game. And so for me, affirmations were really ooey gooey. And I was just not into it. But when you're a coach, you have to be coachable. That's my belief. That's my tenet is you have to be coachable. And so I started. And my observation was the ones I could say like this, I already had. It's the ones where I had the same reaction to the idea of an affirmation that like, I can't say that, right? Like those
Yeah.
are the ones I needed the most. And that's a lot of what I do in my coaching, is I bring that piece of identifying your inner dialogue and then changing it, right? Like this is who you are. You've come this far. That's amazing. Honor that, celebrate it. Now change. Now grow.
Yeah. What's one of them? What's one? Do you mind sharing one affirmation that was tricky for you to learn, but is an everyday kind of now for you?
Yeah. So this is a great one, actually. And I had a lot of reflection just over the last weekend. about it and how it has different layers and different meaning for me, right? So one of the ones is my presence is a privilege. And it can sound incredibly egotistical. And in some ways it is that, right? Like if I'm with you, you must be somebody really important because my time is valuable. I have value and self-worth, and there are a million other things I could be doing, but so could you, right? That was really hard for me to hold that my presence is a privilege. But I started hot yoga this week. And if you're over 50, which I am, it is so critical. It's amazing. It's so cleansing. And one of the intentions of the class was presence, to be present. And while I've worked on that for the last 10 years, I had a new sort of introspection about that affirmation that my presence is a privilege. Like my being present in the moment, it's not just a privilege for other people, it's a privilege for me, right? The past has already happened, the future hasn't come yet. And if I'm worried about what's going to happen or I'm dwelling on the past, I am giving up my presence. And so for
Wow.
me, that was like a new layer of like, oh, my presence in this moment, it really is a privilege because I could be thinking about other things.
No, that's beautiful. It's such a good growth from you're past the other um affirmation, and now you're in a new phase of life, and so it's a whole new meaning. I don't think it's egotistical. I think it's confident. It's
Yeah.
confidence that you defined, not egotism, but confidence to know that you're an amazing person and people
Yeah.
enjoy
And
you.
sometimes
You
I
know what
really
I
have to
mean?
pump myself up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't feel like, right? Like, even though
Yeah.
I know sometimes I'm the best company I keep because the options are not great, right? Like, I deal with a lot of unhappy people.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do. You have to pump yourself up because how you feel is a choice. And the way you speak to yourself creates how you feel.
Exactly. And it exudes your energy too. And you want that energy to be positive around people because you want people to be happy. And, you know, that's a domino effect. If you're confident, happy, the people around you are going to be confident and happier, than they were when you weren't around. So it helps everyone.
Definitely. Yeah. I tell myself my energy is addicting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it. I mean, we're having an amazing conversation because our energies match. And I think that, that's the spice of life, is like giving your positive energy, giving it and receiving it from other people.
Yeah. And I think being human, I mean, you may remember in Sedona, I had my moment and you handed me your rock. Do you remember?
Yep.
You
Of
handed
course I
me,
do.
and yeah, and like, I believe it takes a village. I believe women lift women. No offense to men. I'm sure they do the same, but just because I come at life with in my seminars, like, oh, I've done all this growth. I have my moments and I
Yeah.
still have growth and I depend on those people around me to see me too, right? To see me when I'm vulnerable and to step in and say, here's a tool.
Yeah. Did I give you that? Uh,
No, I gave it. I mean, you loaned it to me as a
Actually,
as a grounding moment that I needed
yeah.
something physical to ground. It was so amazing emotionally, and even emotionally amazing this big is a lot of emotion, right? And
Yeah.
so I needed to be grounded again, and you gave me your touchstone as a physical way of moving from my thinking to my physicality.
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember that. But I remember you popped out pretty quick, but it's overwhelming, all that attention on you, and like it's a lot, right? Especially
Yeah.
when you're the one giving people attention most of the time, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think almost probably every mom who enters Supermom is that kind of person, right? Who is the behind the scenes cheerleader. And when you're the focus, it's a lot. Even when I
Yeah,
do seminars and I'm the focus, I'm giving to others, right? Like I may be the leader, but I'm doing it for you.
exactly. And you have these doubts, people, not you, but people have these doubts that come into their head, like, am am I like good enough to have all this attention? Am I, so I think those come into play too. And you're like, wait, imposter syndrome. Sometimes I have imposter syndrome in some of the things I do. I'm like, am I really good at that? Or am I just like faking it to making it, right?
Yeah. And, sometimes you have to fake it to make it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And then
ultimately you make it, or you make a different choice, right?
exactly.
If I end up in imposter syndrome for too long, I can't do that, right? I was an assistant principal for 4 years, and I am so grateful that there are people who love that job because I was faking it as long as I could, and ultimately I had to see the common denominator, right? And I made a different choice, and I entered a different area of education, and I love what I do. And people say to me all the time, "I don't know how you do what you do. You deal with all these unhappy people all the time." But I get to problem solve, and I get to help them negotiate, and I get to coach people up, and right. And
Yeah.
so everybody has their spot.
Yeah, definitely. So looking back on Supermom, since we started talking briefly about that, what did the title Beyond the Crown mean to you? What surprised you most about the competition? And then kind of what has changed in your life today because of that competition? That's like five
That's a lot
questions
of
in
questions. I'm going to try and hold on to them. Okay.
one.
So beyond the crown, I would say that, like we just talked about, sometimes you feel not good enough, right? And so owning that title, um, it was me internalizing that as much as I invest in other people, it's okay for people to invest in me. And in a very big way. The year of Supermom and the experience of Supermom, it taught me about the importance of being a receiver, and a humble receiver, but a receiver. I am a giver. And um, what I learned is that if you're only a giver, a relationship is imbalanced. And I talk about that with being trusting and trustworthy. It's a fun little lecture that I do. But if you don't have both in a relationship, the relationship doesn't have trust, right? And if you're only a giver but not a receiver, the relationship doesn't have balance. And so, being in Sedona, literally where people are like, let me buckle your shoe, let me put your earring on. And I had to learn to say thank you, um, knowing that, I could call for a ride from here to there, or somebody was going to bring my luggage when I'm typically the one loading the car as a single mom. Slowing down, taking that breath, and recognizing that feeling worthy is not egotistical when you have balance, right? When you're both the giver and the receiver. And I would say the same is true of the celebration. For me, it was going to Napa through Supermom. Just really appreciating that there are other people in this world who want to make other people feel good. I'm not the only one who does that. And I will say that that has been a game changer in my relationships. Um, and I don't think I would be ready for some of the relationships that have come into my life over the course of this last year if I hadn't had that supermom experience of learning to be a receiver. So thank you, because that was incredibly powerful for me. Another key part that has come out of it, and I love that you all have created this legacy piece to the competitions, because it's not just over, right? Like the contributions that people make in Supermom and in your other competitions too, but in Supermom, for me, the fact that it goes to the Children's Miracle Network hospitals, like, it couldn't have been a better recipient of those funds in my world. Um, and I've gone on to work with the legacy department in pairing me up, we have one of those hospitals here in DC, Children's National, and I was paired with somebody who works in their fundraising department. And my older one, Eliana, she wasn't available, but Gabrielle came with me, and we toured Children's National. And we were so privileged to see a child who had completed their chemotherapy and got to ring their bell and hang up their tile. Um, and I teach my children a problem that you can solve with money, even if you don't have the money, is not a problem. No matter how much money you have, if you have cancer, you can hire the best doctors, but there isn't a guarantee that it can be solved with money. And that was a really powerful way for her to understand the message of that. The intentionality of children's, they have an outdoor space that overlooks the mall of DC. And they've created it as a place where every child can go. So they have one door that's like double doors that open. So if you're in a bed and you can't get out of it, you can still go. There are outlets out there in this garden, which has all allergen free and bee free flowers out there. They have outlets. So if you're on an oxygen tank, right? Like every piece of what they do has so much intentionality to make the sickest child's life better. And I think intention and intentionality is a core value that I live my life by. And I hope we can build connection with one another and grow this because one, it's about the recipients of the fundraising, but it is also about women lifting women.
Yeah, and I mean, many of them who put the time and effort in probably learned some valuable lessons like you did about receiving, givers have to give to people, to someone. So,
Right.
you have to learn to receive. I'm the same way. I'm the same way as you. I'm a single mom. I do it myself. I don't need your help. I don't need anybody's help, but you do. And it feels good. And it's like, it feels good when people try to help you and you're like, wait, you're going to put that in my car for me? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. And it's not just I can do it myself. I would say there are two pieces I took away. One is that um, you can have gratitude for it, right? But also, I live in this world of being a decision maker, of getting things done, of calendaring it. And it's okay to have a soft side, right? And I think allowing somebody to do something for you, for me, it actually shows my vulnerability as
Yeah.
opposed to being somebody who's entitled. It actually shows my vulnerability and my soft side to be able to say thank you.
Yes. Yes, so true. Thank you for that. You're a great life coach. You have so much great life experience and advice. I love it. Well, thank you again, and we will hopefully talk to you. So maybe we'll have you back on the Impact Network in another year and just like see where everything's gone, and then you and I maybe we'll connect on the side too because it's fun
I
talking
love
to
it.
you. But
I
thank you for
love it.
joining the Impact Network, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Have the best trip, family vacation.
Thanks. I'll talk to you
Thanks.
soon.